Morning chaps, how's it going? You know, the thing I find most peculiar about this story is, why the fuck does Tony Blair, without any doubt, one of the most reviled walking toilets that has ever presided over the UK, an oxygen thief of staggering proportions, why does this human toilet keep opening his mouth? Why? Why does he keep chirping up when nobody wants to hear anything he has to say? Just think of it from a political point of view. He's absolutely despised by Conservatives because he was the leader of the Labour Party and he ushered in all of these every single new law and piece of legislation and just basically shit rule that has ruined the UK. It all starts with Blair. The immigration crisis and the problems we've got with the EU, and most importantly, those hate speech laws, that all started with Blair. More than anyone, I think, in recent history, Blair fucked up the UK. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got the Labour Party, who, as it stands, have gone much further to the left. So Blair's reviled by the lefty Labour lot because they see him as the warmongering, power-mad, blood-soaked fucking maniac that he is. And then you've got the other sort of libertarian types who don't really have a party and they hate him, and the conspiracy theorists who think he murdered Dr. David Kelly, they hate him. And I can't think of anyone who likes him. I think Jean-Claude Juncker probably fucking likes him. So you'd think he'd learn to shut his mouth up by now, but he hasn't, and he won't. It says the coronavirus will not be eliminated and people will have to learn to live with it, Tony Blair's warned. Well, we've learned to live with one fucking virus. Well, he's not really a virus, he's more of a parasite, isn't he? We've learned to live with him, so we probably can handle a virus. The former Labour PM said the UK requires more containment infrastructure in case the virus resurges in the autumn. No fucking shit. His think tank, oh fucking hell. Surely his tank can't do any thinking. His tank is fucking empty. It's a septic tank. It's full of shit. His shit tank has recommended widespread mask wearing to prevent a spike in cases as lockdown is eased. Boris Johnson said the UK will be well on the way past the pandemic by the middle of next year. Fucking hell. He is hoping. But the Prime Minister told reporters there would be tough times ahead in keeping the virus under control. Christ on a bike. Sort it out. Speaking of the Press Association, Mr. Blair, Prime Minister from 1997 to 2007, said it was absolutely essential to prepare for a 50-50 chance the disease would resurge in the autumn. He said the action needed to be taken now to make sure the virus could be contained in the long term, with a return to nationwide lockdown not possible. The reality is we're going to be living with COVID-19, we're not going to be able to eliminate it, he said. Well, we did it with smallpox and fucking polio, so I'm confident they'll come up with something, but it won't be the first time that I'm right and Tony Blair's fucking wrong. My anxiety about the government at the moment is that it's still not really put in place the infrastructure of containment that is going to see us through a resurgence of the disease. God. Tony fucking Sell-A-Lot Blair. Like, this is the same bloke whose government stole our gold when it was at an all-time low. Like, remember that one? Any of you young thrusters listening might not remember. Sale of UK gold reserves was a policy pursued by HM Treasury over the period between 1999 and 2002, when gold prices were at their lowest in 20 years. Lowest in 20 years, following an extended bear market. Have you seen how much gold's worth now as well, by the way? Spot gold price above $1,900 for the first time since 2011. Fucking gold's worth a fucking fortune, and these two fucking hornblowers sold off half of our gold reserve. Half of the UK's gold reserves in a series of auctions. At the time, the UK's gold reserves were worth about $6.5 billion, accounting for about half of the UK's foreign currency net reserves. It is estimated that the decision cost British taxpayers £7 billion. Christ on a bike. £7 billion. Imagine how much all that gold would be worth now if we just kept hold of it. As gold prices remained relatively low until 2001, when the price began consistently rising in a protracted bull market, by 2020 the price of gold had reached $1,700, and the loss to the UK taxpayer, contrasted to selling the gold later, was estimated at more than £15 billion, as the euros bought with the proceeds had also risen in value. And there he is, the cycloptic Scottish mutant that fucking helped collapse our economy. So Yeah, cheers, Tony. We won't be following your financial advice, mate. Also, import 3 billion fucking third world strangers, massive numbers of which don't do any work and live in council houses and educate the kids and use the NHS and basically contribute the square root of fuck all. In a report, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change argued scoring people A to D on their vulnerability would allow them to take ownership of their own risk. What the fuck? He always liked shitty buzzwords, Tony Blair, didn't he? He loved them. He used to always say, touch base. I'll just touch base with Gordon. Touch your own arsehole with your cock and fuck yourself, you horrible, jug-eared fucking slime ball. It also recommended people should be ordered to wear masks in all public environments. Of course it did. Of course it did. The Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Well, the only change Tony Blair ever interested in was fucking up planet Earth. Unless the citizens of the world wish to see it burst into flames, I don't think we should be taking any advice from the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. So, fuck you, Tosh. Key workers should be supplied with plastic face shields. Oh, fucking hell. So masks aren't enough now. Now he wants me to walk around looking like a fucking spot welder. Fuck off. And he said those most at risk from the virus should be offered government-issued N95 medical masks in a special colour. Christ. He's just an authoritarian, isn't he, Tony Blair? His go-to answer for every problem is stomp on people's civil rights. Cloth masks aren't enough. Wear a fucking welder's mask. Normal N95s aren't enough. Wear a special coloured mask. Why don't we just all wear... Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't people who get the coronavirus have to wear a badge? I don't know, something like... Maybe like a yellow star. Maybe think that'd work. I think Tony Blair could... If we all... Look, there's loads to pick from. Nice yellow star. That'll show everyone that there's something different about you. Face coverings are now compulsory for shoppers in England, and they have been in Scotland since 10th of July. Well, again, you knew the Scots would be straight on it because of everyone in our authoritarian, overbearing, fucking society-meddling twats. The SNP are the absolute worst, aren't they? We Jimmy Cranky and a Marxist chums. They don't give a flying fuck about civil liberties.
Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white.
Hamza Yousaf. He's a nice fella, isn't he? The coverings are already compulsory on public transport in England and Scotland, as well as most buses, trains and ferries, and they'll all be mandatory on public transport in Wales. Fucking everyone is going mental. Health leaders have called for a cross-party review of preparations for a possible resurgence of the virus later this year. Listen, at this point, I don't want a cross-party review. We're living in unprecedented times where you've got the Lib Dems, Labour, and the SNP and the Greens, who basically don't give a flying fuck about the rights of the individual because they're all acting like collectivist fucking ideologues. They don't care about your individual rights. All they care about is towing the party line, and they see everyone as a seething mass of cattle to be controlled. They don't credit any of you with the brains you were born with. Only Boris Johnson out of all of the leaders of all of them, and even he is a bit of a wet fucking blanket ever since he got the bastard virus and apparently shit himself because he's fat and out of shape, and he now seems to think we have to go over the top with everything. Listen, Boris, if you weren't such a saggy fucking mess, and you actually did some cardio 3 or 4 times a week, maybe you wouldn't have ended up in the fucking intensive care unit. You fat, shaggy mess. Just do some fizz, go out on your bike a bit more often, play rugby a bit more, maybe. You don't have to rugby tackle any 8-year-olds anymore, but at least do the cardio and get on with your life and stop being a fanny. But please, everyone needs to walk this back. Take a long hard look at it. Look at the numbers, as I covered in my last video. Not the fake numbers that have basically doubled. Have a critical look at the numbers. Ask yourself how many people under the age of 50 without any serious ailments or health problems have actually succumbed to this virus, and ask yourself, do we need to have everyone in the country marching around with a hazmat suit on or a welding fucking visor? There's no need for this shit. And even if there was, the worst person ever to try and sell us on the idea is Tony Cunting Blair. Holy fucking shit. I cannot believe that bastard has not learned to keep his mouth shut. Because I don't believe a single word he says. If Tony Blair burst into flames whilst giving his speech, and then he told me he was feeling a bit warm, I would not believe him. Tony Blair is the biggest liar, warmongering shitbag that has ever ruled over the UK. Oh yeah, and before I fucking wrap up, regarding those hate speech laws that Blair and Labour introduced, some twat had to go at me on Twitter. I said Blair and Labour introduced all of those ridiculous hate speech laws in the noughties. Harriet Harman was the harbinger of half of them by herself. Those should be rolled back, but it was Labour, not the Tories, that opened that can of worms. This twat, actually, it was the globalist stooge May who introduced the Orwellian hate speech laws ending freedom of speech in the UK, and not one single MP of any party opposed it, and 3 fuckwits liked it. That is wrong. That is a factually incorrect statement. Sorry, liar. The 3 most egregious amendments to speech laws were the Football Offences and Disorder Act. Google them. Fucking Google them. Act of 2000, Parliament of the United Kingdom enacted during the premiership of Tony Blair. That was when they strengthened banning orders and civil impositions against people for including things they fucking said. Next up, the Racial and Religious Hatred Act, 2006, made it an offence to incite hatred, but they worded it so fucking clumsily that almost anybody can get busted for it if you happen to upset anybody. And upset, there's a fucking controversial phrase, upset. Define what upsets people. Something that you say which upsets me might not upset my mate. Something I say which upsets you might not upset your grandpa. It's subjective, and these laws need fucking rolling back immediately. Final one, the Criminal Justice and Immigration Act, 2008. An Act of Parliament of the UK which makes significant changes in many areas of the criminal justice system in England and Wales, and to a lesser extent in Scotland and Northern Ireland. This included sentencing for obscene publications and hate crimes, and fucking blew the can of worms wide open, massively extended provisions for fucking hate speech. Essentially, state-mandated politeness. Those 3 laws are the 3 most obvious and egregious examples of ushering in an age of hypersensitivity and arresting people for jokes, quips, and comments, right? All under Labour. All 3 of them. Apparently the word insulting was removed from some of the legislation by the Tories following a campaign by a lot of bloody comedians in 2014. So any fuckwits that wish to argue the case, you are wrong. Tony Blair ushered in the death of freedom of speech in the UK. That shitweasel there. Fucking oxygen thief that he is. There is no lower man that has ever been in charge of the UK than Tony Blair. He ruined the country for decades to come, and the reason it's in such a fucking state now is because of Tony Blair. Rampant crime, Islamic extremism, a partisan Supreme Court, partisan fucking news networks, partisan civil servants, no freedom of speech. Everything is a fucking mess, and it was all started by that horrible, horrible cunt.
Personified in this case by a horrible cunt.
That's a fact. Prove me wrong. I fucking dare you. Thanks for listening. I will see you all on Sunday for my weekly news roundup. Cheers.